Good morning. Thank you guys for coming. I was kind of thinking we'd have more people here today, but maybe somebody won the Powerball, and that's why they're not here. I didn't. I checked my numbers last night. But today we are going to be talking all about our assistive technology program project that we have with Georgia Tech and Tools for Life, and then also some other community resource and partnerships that we have with other agencies so that you guys have a better understanding or more information about the resources that you can offer to the individuals that you serve. I'm Nikki Wilson. I am the Family Support Manager at DBHDD Central Office, and the Georgia Tech AT contract falls under my purview. And it's something that I'm really excited about and passionate about, and I'm going to tell you a lot more about as we go through the day. So thank you.
Good morning. I'm so glad to see you all here today. I'm Martha Rust. I'm the Technology Specialist with Tools for Life. Has everyone heard of Tools for Life? Got a few hands. Yay! Okay, great. So, and we also want to keep this training really informal. So if you have questions throughout, please feel free to ask us any questions. We also know that some people aren't comfortable with asking questions, and so we've got some sheets of papers on the desk, and then we've got instead of an Ask It basket, we got an Ask It pumpkin because we're getting ready for the fall season, right? Eye on you, no. So you feel free to put your questions in the Ask It pumpkin or hand it to her because she'll be stealing our Ask It pumpkin. So I'm gonna start the mic over here with you, Paula, and then we'll just keep passing around.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Paula Gumpman, and I work at the Georgia Department of Education in the Special Education Division, and my focus in my work is assistive technology. So I'm looking at assistive technology across the state of Georgia and how is that implemented district by district.
Hi, I'm Wendy Pierce. I'm a Planning List Administrator in Region 3, which is the Metro Atlanta area.
Good morning. I'm Beverly Slater. I'm a PLA with Region 3.
Hi, I'm Robin Gillis. I'm also PLA with Region 3.
Good morning. Byron Sarton, State Office Staff, DBHDD.
I'm Maria Lee, ADRC Specialist, and I cover Region 1 and 3.
Melanie Parker, Region 4 Planning List Administrator.
Heather Nix, State Office. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. So we're so happy that you all could be here with us today. And I do have an agenda. I wanted to let you know that we are going to be posting this PowerPoint for you guys later on our Tools for Life wiki, where you all can get all the information. There's a lot of great information. And yesterday we had some fabulous speakers that are going to be coming again today, and so they shared a lot of great information too. So do know that you will have access to this. We just want to make sure that we get this PowerPoint accessible before we actually post it online. So give us just a few days and we'll make sure that we'll do that. So we're doing the welcome and introduction, and then we're going to do a catching up overview of the current process where we are right now with the DBHDD, the AT Solution Project. And then we're going to go over the referral process to the AT Solution Project. So hopefully all of you guys have gotten an email, welcome you to this project, and have your referral sign in and password and all that. If not, we'll go over all that. And so throughout this training, I also want you to start thinking about the folks that you're working with. We're hoping that with this training and this information that you could already think of folks that you want to refer, and we want you to refer. So if today you want to start referring folks, let us know and we'll be able to help you with that, because we do. You'll find out that we were very excited about this, and we thought for sure when we'd open that we'd have floodgates of all the referrals and get a little trickle, but that's okay because we kind of wanted to start out slow so we could get the rhythm of how we're going to be working with individuals. So throughout this training, just think of folks that you want to refer, and then afterwards, if you like help or need help referring, definitely let us know. We'll help you with that. We are going to lay the foundation of considering AT strategy solutions. Did any of you guys come to the training that we did last year here? Got some head shaking. Yes. So we're not going to cover as much as we did last year when it comes to assistive technology. We really wanted to use this training to explore other partnerships, so you have other resources out there, for not only with the folks that you would refer to this project, but all the folks I really think could benefit from a lot of the information. And then we will start exploring those partnerships, looking with Family Support Services. Nikki, Department of Aging will be here. Parent to Parent, Christy, I think, is coming back again today. We have Paula with Department of Ed, and then Tammy Watkins, too. That will be here. And then we'll, we're not going to do all that before lunch, but we will have a working lunch, and then we'll continue to explore partnerships. And then at 3, if we haven't answered all your questions before 3 o'clock, we'll do a panel. Yesterday, we were so good at our training that we answered everything, so we kind of just skipped this part. Everyone got to go home a little bit early, but we want you all to pick our brains while y'all are here. So we want to make sure before you leave today, you have all your questions answered. And then we'll wrap up, next steps, and then adjourn, and y'all have a safe trip back. So, yeah, I'm going to pass it over to you.
So just to kind of lay the groundwork, I guess, of how this project came to be, I told the group yesterday that as I was driving to Macon, I heard a quote on the radio. And I just thought it was really appropriate for how this all came to be, so I shared it with the group. And so the quote said that accident is another word for fate. And that's kind of how this project started. Part of my role as the Family Support Manager at TFL-BHDD is to be the liaison with the Department of Aging. So I was in a meeting with the Department of Aging, and I met Dr. Phillips from Tools for Life and heard about how aging was using assistive technology to support their population. And I thought, wow, this is great. We should be doing it with our folks. So basically, Dr. Phillips and I had some conversations offline to figure out how we could do it. I went and asked for some money and said, we really need to be doing this. Can I please, please, please do it? And here we are. Some of you said you were here at the training last year. We were here in August, pumped up, excited, ready to go, just waiting on that contract. So we thought, September, we'll be ready. So September came. October came, finally April. There are no lawyers in the room, are there? Anyway, those wonderful lawyers couldn't agree on language, but we endured it all, and here we are. So we felt like it was important to bring everybody back and make sure that you knew it was still available. We're still just as excited about it. And we need your help to get these referrals out so that we can have a positive impact on our individuals.
We were so excited at the start. Microphone. We were so excited that we were planning and planning and planning. We were so ready to go. And then, yeah, it wasn't until April. And like May 1st, we're like, yes, we were going to start slow and just open up Region 4. And that's what we did. We started slow, opened up Region 4, and then we added on the different regions. So now all the regions are open, and we're like, we're going to have 325 by the end of the week. No, not so much, but that's okay. So we're hoping that after today that, we will have all 325 really soon. So some of the goals and the visions for this was that we would incorporate public awareness and training too within this contract. So we would be able to do trainings in your regions. I think we had 6 trainings that we were going to do. So this counts as one of them. And one of the reasons we are filming this is that for the folks that weren't able to attend this training, we'll be able to watch it later. We'll record it today, we're going to caption it, and then put it up online for people to watch, because there's a lot of really good information that hopefully you guys will get from it today, and so we wanted to share that with others. We could do trainings for a specific group of people, for you guys, or if you want to have the training for your community centers or your community or parents, etc. as well. And then, of course, the direct AT service would include 325 individuals and their circle and their family support. And what's really neat about this is the research wrapped around it. And so I'm going to bring up Ben Satterfield to talk a little bit more about the research. Or Nikki, if you want to add anything to that too.
Just real quick, I just wanted to clarify how we came up with the number 325. When I first approached our former director of DD, Dan Howell, about this project, I really wanted to take it wide because I'm in family support. Family support can cover assistive technology, but as you know, it's a very small amount of funding, and lots of families need family support for other services, so they don't use it for assistive technology, and our providers don't know that much about it. But anyway, he told me to narrow the focus and let's just focus on the short-term planning list. So I took the numbers, which would probably now be a little over a year old, and kind of broke them down by that short-term list and then the percentages per region. And so the total that we came up with was 325. So in a minute, you'll see what your goals are per region.
How many of you are familiar with the national core indicators? Is that something that y'all have been exposed to? Well, on the national level, the state level departments of behavioral health and developmental disabilities, the iteration in local states of what you guys do, have all been taking sort of a pulse of how the services that they're providing are going and how well received they are, using a set of indicators that were developed through some research that the national organization did. And what we've tried to do, this is how we've been measuring, this is the yardstick against which we've been measuring our progress in Georgia and in our local regions. What we tried to do was to be innovative and take these core indicators that talk about how individuals can be more independent, how they can connect to their communities, how they can be more self-determinant. And we tried to convert or address these goals or these indicators from on a more personal level. So in the research that we're doing in this project, we're doing a pre-survey and a post-survey before we deliver any assistive technology and then after we're finished, to sort of see where people are relative to how they feel about their individual outcomes. And then we're not only measuring how well the technology that we give them works, but also how much it changes or moves the needle relative to how they feel about themselves and how their family and the immediate team around them feel about them in terms of their ability to connect to their communities and to be more independent and to be more expressive of their own preferences. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the focus of what we're doing on the research. We're not trying to be intrusive, but we just want to collect data while we're spending time with the individuals and their families. So I think this gets us to the...
So just to add on to what Dr. Satterfield was saying, that's probably the second most exciting component to me about this project. Obviously the first is getting the technology into the individual's hands, but secondly, to be able to have the data, to have the research, and be able to showcase it, and hopefully provide some longevity to this program so that we can make our individuals' lives better. So when you look here on this slide, we have what the goals were when we started rolling this out, and it's broken down here on the left-hand side, so you can see if you're Region 3, 110 people is what we are shooting for in your area. If you're Region 4, 36. We don't have anybody from any other region here, do we? So, well, not that far. And then over here is currently what we have as far as referrals since we rolled it out May the 1st. So you see we've still got a ways to go to hit our target numbers, so we need your help with that.
Yeah, so like Nikki was saying, we do have 9 people that have been referred in Region 4, 4 in Region 6, 3 in Region 3, and we just had our first one in Region 5. So we're very excited about this. We definitely want to see those numbers grow, because what we're doing is, especially with Region 4, since we are housed in Georgia Tech up in Atlanta, we've gotten several of those referrals together, and then we just make one big trip. So it's really been Kristen and I, our speech language pathologist, who was here yesterday but could not make it today, where we visited like 4 or 5 folks that whole week that we were there, which is really kind of awesome. Because one of the families we got to work with, we were able to go try some assistive technology with them, and it didn't work, and that was okay. But we were able to like make a run to Target and a couple other stores, and then go back to them the next morning, and the technology was working with what we had planned. So that was really neat. So we like to get them in groups, especially like in areas like in I know the Region 5 one is all the way in Savannah, so we love Savannah. So if we can get some more in that area, we can definitely do that. So we do try to combine them so we really make the trip that we can see as many people as possible, which is really nice. And of course, Region 3 in Atlanta is a lot of fun because, we're in Atlanta too, so we could definitely make it a little bit easy for us to get around the city and go see folks as well. So again, be thinking about who you want to refer and definitely refer them, so that'd be great. So the process to the referral to the AT Solutions project is, again, we are looking at doing direct AT services and solutions. So this project is really cool because we're going into that person's environment, if it's in their home or if it's in their group home or in their group facility, where we're actually going in and we're actually asking the individual what kind of things they want to be able to do. It's a lot of fun. We have met one individual who not only has a developmental disability, but also is completely blind. And when we were asking him what he wants to do, and he wants to play Wheel of Fortune. That's what he wants to do. And he talks like a game show host. He's so much fun. I totally enjoyed talking to him. Miss Martha, I want to play Wheel of Fortune. I love it. So, and he's telling us everything he wants to do because this is self-directed, right? So then we look at his mom is actually his caregiver, and she's like, I want to be able not to have to stop what I'm doing so he can play Wheel of Fortune. I want to be able not to stop what I'm doing so he can change that TV channel to be baseball, because apparently he knows all these fabulous facts about baseball, and now, it's baseball season. He was giving us all these facts about the Braves. She's like, so I want to be able for him to do that independently. So it's not just looking at him, because if we can figure out a solution that could help him independently play those video games or independently be able to watch that baseball, it's also going to save her a lot of time. So she can finish cooking, she can finish doing the laundry, she can finish doing whatever she's doing and not having to stop and go back and do those things. So we're looking again as a family support service as well. And then again, all the regions are officially open. So again, if you haven't got your username, your password, or you haven't been referring, let us know. We'll make sure we get that out to you. So we are taking all the referrals now, which is great. How do individuals get their AT services? Well, with Tools for Life, anyone can come to us. We've got families that come to us. We have schools that come to us. We have companies that come to us. But within this project, individuals are referred through you guys as the PLAs. You guys are putting in the referrals to us. We've had not very many questions, but we've had a few questions from families like, hey, I hear that you're working with DBHDD. How do we get on this list? And what we've done is say that you need to go back to your PLA to be referred to this project, which is a little bit different from how we normally work, which is okay. So, and that's just because we are working with a specific number, and there's a specific number within your region, and so we thought it would be better if you kept count of how many slots that you had in your region. So, but normally we do work with everyone. But for this project, the individual would need to be referred through you guys. This project would have focused on, again, we've actually kind of tweaked this already. We've been going since May, and we're kind of still tweaking it. But from the start, this project was created for those individuals who were on the short-term planning list. Nikki's idea was in hopes that while these individuals are waiting on that short-term planning list, that if we can get some technology in their hands so they could be independent, that could really help. And now we tweaked it. So now we've tweaked it for individuals, too, who are also receiving state-funded services. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about state-funded services.
So I guess this is a lesson in where there's a will, there's a way. I told you before I wanted to go really broad with this, and I was told, just start with this. Well, now, because of obviously the planning list has changed and how that's being managed and how you guys are interacting, And so technically, as we've been having these discussions, it's kind of like, well, state-funded folks technically are planning list folks too, for the most part. So we'll go ahead and open it up to them as well. So you can refer people who are on the state-funded side of services as well. And I guess just the other piece, I'll just do this for you. You know, really what we want you to be thinking about as you're here and listening is, you know, who are those people that you think assistive technology could really have a positive impact on? And not just the individual, on their family, like what Martha was saying, because, you know, so often, even though the services are directly for the individual, it's really just as much about the family and the support that they need to be able to continue doing what they're doing on a daily basis. The other piece we want to point out is that this is really for adults, those over 21 who are no longer in the school system. Paula's going to talk to you later today about assistive technology in the school system. We've also specifically brought in parent-to-parent today to talk about services for children. So even if you have children who might be state-funded or might be on the planning list that you might think could benefit from assistive technology, we're going to find you, or we're going to teach you some other referral sources and funding sources and ways to address those needs rather than through this project.
So we have worked with two folks with Nikki's approval who are still in the school system, but there's a lot of great information about what you can do within the school system and where you can pinpoint those parents to that. So that's why we have Christy here with Parent to Parent, and then Paula too, to give out some of those resources. Really, really great, and then actually explain, you know, what it means to like kind of age out of school once you hit 21 or 22. Paula can definitely explain that, which is really great. Any questions so far? Awesome. Okay, so this is the referral link that you all should have. If y'all don't have it, bookmark it, save it. Hopefully it will become your best friend really soon. But this is a referral link that we created for this project for you guys, to make it easy for you guys to put in your referrals to us. We didn't want to add any extra work at all. We did try, we were hoping last August that we'd be able to start this project in September. So we have sent out emails, and we realized that they may have gotten lost in the shuffle or whatever. But if you go to this link right here, your username will be your first and your last name with capital letters for the first and your last. Your first and your last name, and then if you've never signed in before, it should be password all lowercase, and then you'll be forced to change it after that. If that doesn't work, let us know. I'll give you my contact information, and just shoot me an email, and I will make sure that you have that link. Were you able to sign in? Oh, okay. All right, cool. So this is the link that you will go to. And then once you're in this, you would go to add. There's a little add sign right there, and then you would add in your referrals. So we kind of copied off a form that you were currently using, a paper form that you were currently using. So it might seem familiar to you guys, but basically we want your the individual's first name. When it comes to agencies, there's a drop down, and you guys would choose DBHDD as your agency name, and then all the contact information. If they're receiving current services, where they're on a planning list, the now waiver, the comp waiver, et cetera, who their legal guardian is, or their caregiver or their parent. We like that information too, if they have a legal guardian. And then their needs. This is where we really want you all to be specific, because the needs we ask are like communication, mobility, vision, hearing, activities for daily living, cognition, et cetera. So if you could check all that apply, you know, so if you have someone not only who needs communication, but maybe mobility as well, we definitely like more information. The referrals we've gotten in have been really helpful. We had some referrals that says, you know, individual walks with a cane, or individual can speak few words and stuff like that. So that's all stuff that's really good for us to know going in. And then once this is completed, I get an email saying that a referral has been placed, and then you all can go back in your referral link at any time, and you'll see a list of all the folks that you referred. So if you go in and you're like, oh, I don't remember if I put Jane Doe in there, you can actually go back into your referral page and see which ones you've referred in as well. Questions about that? We also created a video training link for you guys as well. So if you get back and you're like, oh, I don't remember how to use this link right here is also on our YouTube channel and also on our Tools for Life wiki that you can get to. And it's really short, fabulous, 6 minutes and 52 seconds of me training you guys on how to use the referral link. So you have that too as a backup. Or you can always get in touch with any of us, any of our regions, whoever is representing your region, like I'm 4, I think Sarah's 5, and Ben's 1, and then the other folks, 3, sorry, Ben's 3. And Asha's 1. There you go. You can always get in touch with us too, and we can definitely walk you through that as well. Okay. So yeah. Any questions so far? Has any of you guys been using the referral system? You have. So have you found it easy to do? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Can we talk more about the referrals for, like, usually they're referral. I don't make many referrals for the ADLs and cognition. You know, so certain areas I don't know how to really look for that or to see if there's a need there. So will we talk more about the specific areas for?
Yes, we definitely can. We're going to go over a little bit about some technologies that covers like cognition and stuff. So we could definitely cover that. If you have specific questions, or if you're not even sure if you're referring the right thing, you could always just click it and be like, I think there may be some cognition going on. Excuse me, or I think there may be a hearing loss or something like that. Or you can always like contact myself. You can also contact Nikki too if you have any questions about that. But yeah, we'll be going over a little bit of that. Help. Any other questions? Great questions. Actually, I'm going to pass this over to Sam and Tori with our training team to talk about the training that we can offer for you guys.
I think that question was a great intro to what we're going to talk about. Can I have the, thank you. So, hi, I'm Sam again. We're on the training team, and a lot of what we're doing is going to be kind of like community outreach, public awareness kind of things, and then also any trainings that you guys think you need. So we did talk about this when you guys were here last year. I hope it makes a little bit more sense now that you're kind of diving into the process, and maybe you're like, with the cognitive kind of, are there ATs for that? Is this somebody that I should refer? Where we can definitely dive into a deeper training if that's something that you want. So here's kind of just some topics that you can consider when you're thinking about trainings, either for you, your community, the individuals you're working with. We have like Assistive Technology 101, which is kind of what we did last year. I mean, if you think you need a refresher on that, we're happy to provide a training. Communication is a big one. I know you guys have been seeing a lot of referrals for communication. And mobility, sensory, cognitive supports, and things like environmental control and gaming. Recreation is also important. And we're going to go into a little bit about funding, apps, aids for daily living. These are just kind of, basic intro kind of trainings that we do. So if there's really anything that you think, I need more information about this to be successful, or my community needs to know about this, please let us know. And these don't have to be trainings either where you're coming here and you're traveling and you're sitting all day with us. As much as I know you're happy to be here. These can be offered, through a webinar or through a virtual training, if that's going to be, easier for you as well. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think all I really have to add is, we just want to reiterate that this is just a small sampling of what we can provide trainings on. We've done things as as basic as Disability 101 for, a company, just so that they know, you know, who they can hire and you know, person first language and all of that. So, but we can absolutely cater this to your needs, as Sam said. So if you have a specific question about a specific topic, we will absolutely dive in and make sure that we get that catered to you and provide it to you as well.
Thank you, ladies. If you do have any training requests, please feel free to contact me or Tori. I can give you my card. You can write your topics down on your little white pieces of paper if you have anything that you think you need trainings on. Your feedback is really important to us because we're going to be doing trainings regardless. So I would prefer to do them on things that people actually need.
Yes, please take advantage of the training, because we're seeing some stuff already that could probably really benefit the community that we're at. We definitely have gotten several requests in for communication, and on top of that, behaviors that go along with the lack of communication, right? So what if you can't communicate? What kind of behaviors do you think will happen? So, to schools? Yes. Definitely. You already have some in mind, a training in mind? Great, yes. Let us know, and we can start planning on that for sure. It is hot in here. I'm like, I know it's light, but man, it's hot. So we'll go ahead and start talking. I think all of you guys are familiar with Tools for Life. I do want to kind of go over these slides again with you all. We are housed at Georgia Tech, so yay, go Jackets. Yeah. I don't know about you guys. Are y'all ready for football season? Yes, me too. So I'm so excited. I'm actually going to the preseason game. I can't wait because I'm just ready for somebody to hit someone, really. So, I mean, for football. That's what I'm ready for, some football. So anyway, so we are housed at Georgia Tech under the College of Design, and it's very cool to be in that environment because we're actually where technology is being made. I don't know if y'all heard this, but Georgia Tech on Monday actually has opened a lab where people all around the world can like video call in or telepresence in to use their robots. How cool is that? That I could be like in Paraguay and like be like, hey, Georgia Tech, I want to try that robot out. So I don't know where that lab is, but I am going to find that, because the idea that to be able to use the robots they're creating, they've created a robot. This is so cool. They've created a robot that people are using now to help with aids of daily living. There's a robot where I believe the man has ALS, but I could be wrong about the disability, but he's unable to really move from the neck down, and that robot shaves his face in the morning. That robot can get him a can of Coke to drink. And when that robot needs to think about whatever skill it does, it kind of rolls itself in a corner like it's been bad, but it's like thinking about that skill. But how cool is that this man is living a little bit more independently because this robot is doing that? We have robots in our lab. They don't shave or give drinks yet, but they have the ability to like telepresence in and be like, if I'm unable to check on my loved one, I can maybe have a robot in their house and be like, oh, wait, why didn't you get up? Why are you still in bed? Or, you know, being able to check on your loved ones, or being able to go to work. Maybe I can't physically go to work for whatever reason, but I have that robot there, and I can still interact with my peers. I can still have those meetings. I can still make sure my job is getting done, which is really super cool if you think about it. That's where we are. I mean, imagine you all live in Atlanta. Would you all rather like have a robot in your office versus fighting that traffic? Yeah, exactly. So that's where technology is taking. And so we've been able to work with a lot of students. Sarah is working with a class. You're teaching a class, right, on prosthetics and stuff. So she's going to be like working with students. And some of these students are going to probably be making them in the future. Personal note, my mom just recently lost her leg, and she has a smart leg now. She has a above leg amputation, and she has to plug in her new leg every night. That's really cool. Like, I'll call home and be like, hey, Dad, what you doing? I'm just plugging your mother's leg in. Like, that sounds like I should call back. But trying not to get teary-eyed of this, but my mom has the ability to put her leg on, and it's a smart leg because it's got this computer thing in it, in her new knee that's on her new leg, that's going to learn her gait, so she's going to be able to walk more naturally. I have seen my mom go from losing her leg to learning how to use a wheelchair, to learning how to walk with a walker, to now she's using a cane. And I was just home 2 weekends ago, and she's going caneless around the house. This just happened at the end of March. I mean, praise God, and like, wow, like that's where technology is. My mom is driving again. My mom is going to her social activities. My dad was like, I haven't got a single nap since March. Your mom is on the go all the time, and that's amazing, because what if she didn't have that? You know, her whole new normal is new, but I just keep thinking, if technology wasn't where it is, where would my mom be? So being able to, it's no pressure, Sarah, in your class at all. But I share this because we're over there at Georgia Tech, and we've got all these students making this new technology, and it's great because they can come over to us and be like, hey, what do you think about this design, And Asha could go, well, that's really awesome, but what if they can't see? How are they going to interact with it? Or Tori can go, well, that's great, but if they can't hear it, how can they do it? And it makes them think, and they're like, oh. So it's very cool to be around there, and there's so many cool designs that are out in the market, and we're like, oh man, we knew that student back when, and now they're out there selling these switches that are making a difference for someone to be independent. So I don't know if anybody wants to add any more to that. I can tend to talk a lot, so y'all feel free to jump up and say anything. So yeah, so we are housed at Georgia Tech under in the College of Design, and it's a lot of fun. And so really AMAC came about, and it started at University of Georgia, and it was just created to help make post-secondary books accessible, making sure that textbooks were in electronic format so that someone who may need a screen reader, software that will read whatever's on the screen out loud, because PDFs, if you think about it, PDF is just a picture, and if I need to know what's on that picture, it has to be converted in accessible format so that my screen reader can read it. Or if I can't carry that textbook because they're too heavy, or I don't have the strength to carry them, or whatnot, being able to have an electronic format so I'm easy to get to as well. And then they grew, and they grew so much that Georgia Tech was like, come be with us. And so they did. I'm not sure about that last part, but they did move to Georgia Tech, and we are part of the accessibility. They do a lot of accessibility consulting for not only colleges and universities all over the world, but also places of employment as well. We have a big Braille service area. You all are always welcome to come tour. We have a big Braille service down the stairs where they're actually converting textbooks and STEM textbooks into Braille, which is pretty awesome. One of my favorites is they have like a locust or grasshopper, and it's all like you can just touch and feel the different parts of a grasshopper because it's all in Braille. There's a captioning service so that people who are deaf and hard of hearing can participate real time in their class or in meetings. And then, of course, the e-text production where they're making electronic format accessible so people can have that stuff read out loud if they need it. And then we're all part of the Certified Assistive Technology team. I think we had the best part because again, we get to work with all ages and all disabilities to help them figure out those solutions or strategies so someone can be more independent in whatever area they want to be in, which is really great. So our mission is that we are here to help Georgians with disabilities gain access to and acquisition of assistive technology devices and assistive technology services so they can live, work, and play independently in the community of their choice. And that's so important. I think everyone should have the ability to live in the community of their choice, work in the community of their choice, play in the community of choice. And we really do follow this as well. So I can be working with someone, but I'm not going to show someone this $10,000 device if they're not going to have any way to fund it, right? That's not fair. Good luck with that. You know, you have a credit card? Put it on there? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to work with someone to figure out what is really realistic. You know, if that $10,000 device is what that person needs to help them be independent, then we will work with them to see, is that something that insurance can cover? Is there a grant that can cover? You know, can we toggle some resources? So I do have some funding resources in here to share with you guys. But this is another reason we created this training, so you guys can also learn about different partnerships out there. Because right now we're working with the folks that you were referring, but maybe they're aging and they have a developmental disability. Or right now we're working with a family where the person with developmental disabilities is young, like 22, 23, that age, but her primary caregivers are her grandparents. And now it's gotten to the point where it's not just her that needs some assistive technology, but they're moving into, there's only like, specifically in this person's house, there's one bathroom. Everyone uses the same bathroom. And so we have these elderly grandparents who both have had multiple surgeries, having to lift a heavy shower chair in and out, because it's the only bathroom. So what kind of other resources can we give to that family to help maybe do some modifications? What other resources are out there? This is our network. You're actually having this training in one of our network centers, Disability Connections. I have Michael Leverett in the back, who's the director here at Disability Connections. So they're one of our assistive technology resource centers. So if you haven't done the tour, definitely ask anyone here, and we can give you a tour of their place if you would like to see all the technology they have here. We have another one in Augusta. And in the Atlanta area, you have us at Georgia Tech, and then at FODAC, Friends of Disabled Adults with Disabilities, too. What we've done is we have tried to, our goal really is to make it so that no one has to travel more than an hour and a half to put their hands on, touch and feel assistive technology. So we're really working on that goal. So a few years ago, we worked with all the Centers for Independent Living, and we created a toolkit for them. So it's a big toolkit that has technology for hearing, seeing, communication, et cetera, so that folks who are coming to the Center for Independent Living could also see and touch and feel assistive technology. And then Aging got on board. They were like, that's really cool. We think all of our aging disability resource centers should have that as well. So Rachel put together toolkits for all of our aging disability resource centers. And so now someone can go to an aging disability resource center and touch and feel and put their hands on assistive technology. And it's been really kind of cool where all these folks have gotten on board, and now some of these places have taken their toolkits and they have grown it into a lab. So you're shaking your head, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's so much fun. Like I believe Coastal in Darien, Georgia. If you ever go to Darien, Georgia, definitely stop by Coastal's Aging Disability Resource Center. Their lab is amazing. It's much bigger than our lab at Georgia Tech, and totally have grown it. So you have an apartment-like setting. So there's an apartment, a kitchen, a bathroom area, and Peggy just really took it and grew it, which is pretty exciting. So I'm excited about this map because when I first started, there was like 4 stars on there, and now we have grown, and we're really trying to cover the rest of the state so that people can learn more about assistive technology without driving all the way to Atlanta. Do you find that people, I find that several folks are like, we have to come to Atlanta? And something about that traffic makes people a little nervous. They're like, I can only go to Atlanta during this 1 hour of the day, so I'll meet you at 4 a.m., right? I think that'd be the only time there's not much traffic. So it's nice to know that we can say, hey, we can, you don't have to go all the way here. You can go to Macon. Yes, ma'am.
I know FODAC, they're starting to do deliveries of some medical equipment.
Yes.
Is that also will be part of this, where they come like once a quarter, once a month?
Yes, so you were asking about FODAC and the delivery of durable medical equipment. FODAC does have, I think it's more like an MOU with their centers of where they go. So they are working closely with several centers. I believe, yes, Northwest Georgia. And Michael, does FODAC come here to drop off? And yeah, so this is a pickup site as well. So they are growing that. So it sounds like Northwest Georgia is hopefully will be on that list. I know Coastal is in Darien. They make a trip down there here. So they're working with several of our partners. And what that means is FODAC, if you're not familiar with FODAC, Friends of Disabled Adults and Children, in Stone Mountain, they're one of the largest durable medical equipment reuse, refurbished sites, which is really awesome. So people can donate like durable medical equipment like shower chairs, wheelchairs, scooter, power chairs, etc. if they're no longer using them. And what they do is they clean it, they refurbish it, and then depending on what that device is, they may have some cost to it, depending, usually like the cost of the battery. And so they're able to, instead of someone coming all the way to Stone Mountain, and they live in this Macon area, they can work with Michael and drop it off here so the person can just come here versus having to go all the way, or vice versa. Someone can drop off stuff they're not using here, and then they can come pick it up. So it's a great thing. And then again, it's putting assistive technology in the hands of those folks that need it, which is very exciting. So this is our website. I like to call it more of a resource site than a website. So our is gatfl.org. You will see that we have, there it is. We have our wiki on there, and that's where we'll post all this information. So you can go directly to our website, and you can click TFL Wiki, and you'll find the link for the referral as well, and all that information. And that's also where we'll be posting those websites, and we'll get that information to Nikki so she can get it out to you guys too as well. We do webinars. I don't know if any of y'all had the opportunity to take any of our webinars. We archive them all. So we have tons of them. So if there's something you would like to have more information on, you can definitely check our archives or join our mailing list, and we'll let you know when we're doing the webinars, etc. as well. And we also have some other tools like, and we'll go over these, some funding tools like an online G-Trade, which is kind of like eBay, except for assistive technology, so people can post their technology if they want to sell it, which is really cool. When I started, people used to post their vans on there, so at a much lower cost. So it's kind of like we encourage people to always go back and check it, but people were posting their vans. Lots of different states have exchange programs too. So if you are working in a region that's like on the border of like Tennessee, Alabama, or etc., you can also check their exchange sites. One of the exchange groups had a helicopter on theirs, an accessible helicopter. And if I was in that state, I would have snatched it up and parked it on my roof. Then I would have gotten around Atlanta a lot faster. But you never know what you can find. So sometimes when I'm working with folks who are like on the border of a state or something, to check out theirs too, because you never know what you can find. For us, G-Trade is between the buyer and the seller. We don't get in the middle of the cost and all that. What we do is make sure it's a real thing that should be posted. We've got lots of stuff that we don't post because it's not a real thing, but we make sure it's real before we put it up there. So, okay, so with assistive technology, I'll talk a little bit more about some of these strategies, is that we want to make sure that people stay off that fast track, right? The frustration, the anxiety, the stress, and the tension. If you can't do something, sometimes you get on that fast track. So, for example, like cell phones. Do you know anyone? You may be one of these folks, but if you lose your cell phone, do you know anyone that goes in like panic mode? You're no, not at all. I see some heads shaking. I have some friends. I'm like, when I lose my cell phone, I'm kind of glad, but I know some folks that go crazy when they can't find their cell phone. It puts them right on that fast track. For some individuals, their cell phone is assistive technology. So we were trying to look for strategies and tools to help someone so they stay off that fast track for sure. And some of the things we do to do this is, especially when we're working with adults, we follow the HAT model, which is a human activity technology model, and it was developed by Cook and Hussey. Y'all feel free to jump in if you want to at all. I see you coming. No, I'm fine. I'm just going to let you know. I do talk a lot, so just jump in. So with the HAT model, the human is the person that we're working with, and it represents the skills and the ability of that person with a disability. What can they do? I think so many times people hear, I can't. And so I like to turn it around and be like, what can you do? I worked with someone recently, and he was getting ready to go on an interview, and he asked me to help him figure out and work through some of these interview questions. Well, in the first 5 minutes, I hadn't asked him a single thing, and he already told me everything he can't do. And I'm like, no, you're never going to get hired if you start off with what you can't do, right? So we had to work on, let's figure out what you can do and start off with those positives. And for him, he didn't even realize that he had spent, he was telling me all this stuff that was can't, because that's just what he's been told. his entire life, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I'm like, oh, we got to change this attitude for sure. Because we may not be able to type using a keyboard, but man, you can talk and you can type using your voice, or you may not be able to physically see that sheet of paper, but we got a smartphone, you got an app, let's just take a picture and have it read out loud. So it's kind of reframing that for sure. The next thing we look at is the activity. What set of tasks are to be performed by that person with a disability? You know, is it that the person, we want that person to be able to communicate out in the community, right? Maybe that's a task we need to work on. Maybe we want this person just to be able to dress independently, be able to take a shower independently. What task are we looking at? What is the setting? You know, the cultural, the social is pretty important too. Where is this person going to be? Do they need to be able to communicate at their group home? Maybe they need to be able to communicate at the school, or maybe they need to be able to communicate in a workplace, or be able to interact with folks in other areas. So we see a lot, especially with some of the referrals, when we're talking to some of the parents, is, oh, we understand exactly what they're saying, so we don't need to work on that. Well, what happens when he or she is out, you know, at their church or hanging out at the movies? How then, if just this small circle of folks know those gestures or those signs or whatever, right? So we're looking at the context too. And then pulling in that assistive technology devices or strategies that can really be used to bridge the gap between a person's ability and the demands of that. So we kind of use all this. We like to call it hanging out with intent. Sometimes if you just kind of hang out with a person, you see some of those things that kind of come out. We're working with a student recently and had some assistive technology going on in the classroom, and Asha, you were with me on this one. So we just kind of like, they asked us to come because they weren't sure if the assistive technology was the right fit, but she was excelling in everything, so the student was like maybe 4th grade. So we just kind of stepped back and we just kind of watched in the back of the classroom, and had some vision loss, had this big old video magnifier, which kind of, you put a textbook under it and it magnifies whatever they're reading on this big screen. And it was working perfectly. So we were watching, and she had to move the thing up and down, so she can, like, she would read what was on her textbooks, and then she had to move the screen up so she could write her answer down, and it was going back and forth. And then at the end of the class, she had to have someone help her pack that up together, put it in a backpack, and have someone else take it to her next class. So yeah, that device was working for her, but it may not have been the best fit. So what we did was we were just kind of showing some other devices that were lighter weight, because we're looking at the person, right? You know, as they transition, being able to have something that they can independently carry around from class to class, being able to work on the ergonomics so you're not moving up and down every time you need to write your name and stuff. So we would have totally missed that if we hadn't just kind of hung out in the back. Does that make sense? So sometimes we can go into families and we just kind of see how they interact. We went to another family recently, and just, you know, kind of just was talking to the caregivers, and while we were there, we were able to see how they were interacting with the other folks in the house. We watched them, how they interact with their siblings, and we were like, so they weren't really engaging. It was just this person ended up really watching TV all day. That could be boring, right? Unless you're like binge watching your favorite Netflix show, right? But even after a while, you got to get up and move and have some other type of engagement. But we would never have known that without just sitting back and watching how they were interacting with their environment as well. Technology has changed, and it continues to change, and a lot of the new technology is coming out with more universal design, which is really great. So it's now not so much in the shadow, but more like out in mainstream. This is really cool that Tim Cook, he's the Apple chief executive, and in 2013, not too long ago at a speech at Auburn University. He was saying people with disabilities are in a struggle to have their human dignity acknowledged. They're frequently left in the shadows of technology advancement that are a source of empowerment and attainment for others. Because so many times they're kind of left in the back, right? They're like, okay, instead of having it, I went to a presentation several years ago, and I liked the phrase that this person used. Instead of having that baked in, like having that already baked into that piece of technology, it tends to be an afterthought. Like, you know, you build the house and it's got 6 steps up, but you use a wheelchair. Now you're going to try to retrofit it, right? Instead of having it like baked in. I love that term that she used. So a lot of these newer technologies is kind of having that technology already baked in as well. So the example of the iPhone is one because the iPhone has really, and apps have really opened the doors for people with disabilities because it's already baked in. The iPhone had the first screen reader, built-in screen reader. Already built in. You know, a lot of their updates they do have people with disabilities in mind. You know, the ability to turn the flash on your phone, so if you're deaf or hard of hearing, they do that flash. They're also making hearing aids now that will work directly with the iPhone. Did y'all know that? This is fabulous because now if I have hearing aids and I've got there's only certain hearing aids that work with this, but if I have those hearing aids and I have an iPhone, I can use that to help me hear, like in situations like I'm in a restaurant or if I'm in a car, so I can better hear. And their newer updates is going to have the ability to work with cochlear ear plants. So that's pretty cool technology that's coming out. Android as well, which is really nice. And it's really brought down the cost. So yeah, Android too. I'm going to pass this over to you because I want you, Ben, because I want you to talk about what's coming out in Windows. So it's already built in, the update.
I don't know how many of you have been paying attention to the tech news lately, but Microsoft announced, I think it was last week, that they were going to bake into their operating system for Windows 10 going forward the capability of operating eye gaze technology. Isn't that interesting? And so this is a technology that usually comes with a $15,000 piece of equipment, and it's has mostly been used in the consumer area for communication for people who are nonverbal. And that's a lot of expense. Now, there have been portable versions of eye gaze technology that have been coming down in price, and this will require that you have a USB, it's a reader for your eyes, basically. You plug it into the USB port on the computer and set it on top of the keyboard, and it will find where your eyes are looking at the screen, and it will come up with a location the way your mouse works. But that price is coming down to the point where it's very affordable. I think what Krista mentioned yesterday, they're targeting $275. Wow, isn't that amazing? And this is a technology that will be powerful. I mean, obviously gamers are kind of driving this, but that's okay. It's going to work for the folks that we serve. And it's going to work for us too, ultimately, once we figure out the right applications. But this is going to be a powerful step forward in terms of what Martha's talking about, in terms of baking technology in.
Thank you for sharing that. Another thing that we have seen decrease because of popularity in universal design is environmental controls, right? Used to be where, did anyone watch MTV, House of Cribs, when they went into the celebrity home? I'm the only MTV person here. Is MTV still around? I don't even know. I remember when they showed videos, but you know, when they went into the, you remember too, don't you? I don't even know if they have on that show anymore. But anyway, Total Request Live, I was late to class because I had to see who was #1. But so anyway, I remember that show where they went into the celebrity homes. Anybody with me? Oh, okay, yes, Cribs, that's it. Where they went into celebrity homes and you got to see them like have this huge like remote control, and they pressed a button and the shades went up and the TVs came down, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And it costs thousands of dollars, right? Because you didn't really see anyone else that had that. Now you can like buy a light bulb for around $50, screw it in and connect it to your Wi-Fi, and then all of a sudden with an app you could turn your lights on and off. And then you didn't have to rewire anything. So that has really driven down the cost. Now I can have those shades, you know, but that's not going to have to rewire everything. I mean, so I did recently exchanged my thermostat out to a smart thermostat. That's how easy it was. And I was able to watch the YouTube video on how to do it, and I did it, and it still works. I'm excited about that. But now I have the ability to connect it to my Amazon Echo and be like, Echo, I would like the temperature to be whatever, and I don't even have to get up out of bed to do that. So the ability to do that, and we'll talk a little bit more about environmental controls and how it's really helping someone be independent. You know, being able to turn your lights on and off. I have a really good friend, and they got their whole home automated, and she called me, and she's like, she has a disability where she is pretty much dependent on everyone. So she called me, and she's like, guess what? We just got our smart light bulbs and all this kind of stuff. I said, what are you doing right now? She goes, I'm turning the lights on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. And I'm like, I love it. And it's because she's never been able to do that before. And now the ability to go in to do that. We worked with someone who had a disability that made the fingertips very painful. So she had a disability that affected her nerves. And so her husband was doing everything, the cooking, the cleaning, everything, because it was just too painful for her to do some things. And then she came to our lab, and we have one of those Roomba vacuum cleaners, which has also gone down in price. And she took it home, and she brought it, and she ended up buying one because she felt that was one thing that she can contribute to in the house. It was one less thing for him to do. Now they have a mop. Oh my goodness, you could have the Roomba and the mop. They could fight each other. That would be kind of cool to see. But anyway, technology has really gone down. I forgot how much a Roomba was a few years ago, but now you can get it for around $300, $400. And I think there's even off-brands of that, so you don't even have to get the Roomba. I think there's another one called an iBot that I saw recently that was much cheaper than the Roomba. So just knowing that technology and where it's going has really dropped down the cost. So I can talk all day about all kinds of stuff, but I'm going to try to keep you all out of here on time. So what is assistive technology? Now that we've been talking about it already, is that any item, piece of equipment, or product that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. So that's a mouthful. So basically, I like to think of assistive technology as anything that could help an individual be more independent in whatever area they want to do. It could be something as simple as a piece of Velcro. Maybe it's putting Velcro underneath a plate so that the plate doesn't move around so I can eat independently. It could be a pair of glasses. It could be, I don't know, it could be a straw. You know, the ability to use a straw and I can drink independently. It'd be one less thing for someone to pick up and hand me. It could be your iPhone. It could be an app on the iPhone. It could be the ability, we do have a coworker, Liz, who's not here, but she often shares this, that she does probably 85–95% of her work just on her cell phone because it's easy for her. It makes things easier for her. I have several friends with spinal cord injuries, and the ability for them to use their voice and to call people has really opened up doors. I'll never forget, I'm such a geek, I need to probably stop sharing my stories. Back when the cell phones were like really big, Nokia was one of the first ones that came out with the voicemail that caller ID that talked, right? So I just took that for granted that I could look down and be like, I'm not talking to them. But I was with my friend Shirley, who has extremely low vision, and we were hanging out, and she had one of those big Nokia phones, and all of a sudden it was like, call from so-and-so, call from so-and-so. She was like, oh, I am so not talking to them, and like hit it, and she was like, that felt good. She was like, that was the first time I've ever been able like not to talk to someone because she didn't know who was calling. So just that ability alone gave her an extra independence. And I was like, I hope you don't do that when I call you. But anyway, so assistive technology could be something low tech. We don't necessarily always have to go to that high tech then. It could be something as low tech as a pencil grip, or magnifiers or color coding, etc. It could be something like mid-tech, like word prediction, text-to-speech, using your voice to type for you, adaptive keyboards, mice, etc. Or it could be something even more high-tech, like environmental control or apps over $100, or maybe a sophisticated communication device that could cost a couple of $1,000s. So does that make sense? All right. Anything else y'all want to add? Okay, good deal. I'm going to check in with you guys every now and then. So why assistive technology? Obviously, for a person without a disability, assistive technology makes life easier. For a person with a disability, assistive technology really makes life possible, and that really speaks volumes. This guy right here has given us permission to use this story, Greg. And this is an old picture, as you can see, because we don't have these big computers anymore. I think I have one in my basement, actually, but you don't see them anymore. But he has a high-level spinal cord injury, and he's able to control his whole environment by using this sif and puff system. So with using his sif and puff, he can control his computer. He can control the door opening and closing. He can turn the fan off and on. He can do all that independently, and now lives independently. He may have an aide that comes in the morning or an aide that comes in the evening, but he's able to do that all independently. And all of us can probably share a story where some form of assistive technology has helped a person live independently as well. So assistive technology can help with speaking, hearing, seeing, moving around, getting places, memory, cognition, daily living activities, such as dressing and prepping meals and socializing. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like a piece of equipment. We are going into, we often are looking at different strategies as well when it comes to assistive technology. One of the families we were referred to, Krista and I went, and we were all excited about meeting this individual, and we were like, Krista would be like, okay, have you tried this? And the mom's like, oh yeah, we have one of those. And we're like, have you tried this? And the mom goes, oh yeah. So anyway, we went to this house, and the mom had all the pieces of assistive technology that we were going to suggest in a box, put up. Oh wait. And we were working with her now on strategies, because the individual has left high school, transitioned out of high school, and she's like, I didn't even think about it, you know. She stopped going to school, and I just kind of stopped using it. So maybe I need to get that back out. We're like, well, yeah, maybe if you want to have some communication. Yes, ma'am.
Have you come across too, because before for me there were some parents. I came across some parents who really they kind of thrived on assisting their son or daughter as well. So there was some pushback on assistive technology. Like I worked with one woman with cerebral palsy, and we got her, was it a Dynavox? And she started communicating, but her mom said she couldn't use it because it hurt her neck. So do you run into resistance a lot?
Yes. I don't know if you all want to speak. Ben, do you want to speak on on resistance? But we do see that, and sometimes it's coming up with different strategies. Or Sam, if you have anything you want to say.
Yeah, if you have something.
Feel free to jump in.
Yeah, we see that sometimes where parents sometimes become kind of sometimes it's the lack of engagement, and then sometimes it's over-engagement. I think there's sometimes it's just, clearly the thing that you're tapping into is the fulfillment that I get, or the sense of purpose that I have because I'm their primary care provider. And clearly that's a leading role as an advocate and so forth that they do need to step up to. But we need to see that ultimately, you know, being expeditious about things or just doing it because I'm tired and I've just got to go to bed, so here, let me just do it for you, robs the individual of the opportunity to become independent in that area. And ultimately, when mom is not around, then we have to face the fact that we're all mortal and we're not going to be here forever. What does the kid do then? The same thing is true with like learning how to bathe themselves effectively. You know, I think a lot of families, we just have to realize that life's crazy, you know, it's like a Chinese fire drill all the time, you know, and sometimes you just get home and you're tired, and, you know, I'm waiting for you to kind of get with the rhythm of washing yourself. Oh, here, just let me do it, you know, because I want to go to bed and I got to get you in bed first. Well, 17 years of that, and you wind up with a kid who can't take care of themselves. So I think there's a part of that. It's kind of there's a learned helplessness, but there's also something that I think we invest ourselves in at a level that is not always productive. Yeah.
I got some training early with my two sons, and one of the things that they said when my children were 2 and 4 years old and diagnosed with autism is we're teaching skills we want to see in 7 years. So when I work with parents, I used to work with Babies Can't Wait, and I worked in the school system as a teacher for many years. But I'd say, look, we're practicing skills we want to see now in 7 years. And even with my parents today, you know, that I work with in the community, I'll tell them, look, you're bathing your child. You're handicapping your child. You're disabling him, because what are you going to do in 7 years when you're 55, when you're 75? You know, are you still going to be bathing this child? You're causing disability if the person can do something for themselves. And, you know, my kid, he stands in the shower. I don't know how he gets clean, but he does. I'm not going in there with him. He has moderate autism. He seems relatively clean. You know, he used to swim in the garden tub. He's too big for that now, but now we're working on shaving because that's where we're at. And he does some of the shaving and I do some of the shaving, but I'm hoping he'll get to the point where he can get it all. He only sees this part of his face. But we're working on it because I don't want to shave him for the rest of his life. So, but that's something to think about. We're working on skills we want to see in 7 years.
You ready? Yeah, I think Sam has something he wants to say.
It is getting everyone in the person's life involved, not just the individual with disability. You need that buy-in for support.
Thanks for sharing that. And Sam, yes, definitely we have to get everyone involved. I worked with a student recently who was in college with autism, and grandma was still doing everything. Grandma was getting up, grandma whatever, ever. And then I met with him, and we were talking through different strategies, and I was like, well, what are you going to do if this comes up? He goes, oh, Granny's going to do it for me. And I was like, what? I said, do you want to date? He's like, oh, yeah. And I said, do you want to, like, get married one day? He goes, yes, yes, yes. Do you want Granny to be there? No. I said, okay, let's work with that. And so success breeds success. And one of the first things we did was to get him an alarm clock. And he had to make sure he got up. And we had to work with Granny, too. It was like, Granny, you can't get him up. If he misses his class, that's a consequence. And so it was those little things. So sometimes maybe it's just, like you said, where you want to be in 7 years. You know, this young man definitely wanted to get married, and he didn't want a Granny to be there. So maybe it's just reframing sometimes and thinking about where to be out. And then bringing in other people involved, not just the person with disability, but that circle of support as well is very important. One of the referrals we had too, and again, this goes back to not always going to the most expensive or even a device. One of the referrals we have is, again, we're working with that circle of support, is she wants her son with developmental disabilities to be able to take a shower independently, but right now she doesn't feel like she can because he'll use the entire bottle of shampoo. He doesn't know when to stop. He just uses the entire bottle. Yes. So, and it's okay. So we can work on that. We're going to try some different strategies. So one of the strategies we've come up with is that we're going to buy little travel size bottles. She's going to put the shampoo, and then he could use all of it because it's going to be individualized. We're going to see if that works. We also found out they actually made little like pods for shampoo, which I was totally impressed with, but they're expensive. And that's not something you really maintain. I think it was like $12 for like 6 of them or something. Okay, that's really clean hair for that much money. But so we're like, okay, let's take it a step back and see if we can come up with these little travel size bottles that sure, we'll put just the right amount of shampoo in there, and then he gets to use the whole entire thing. And then that's one less thing that she has to do. So we're going to try that. So that'd be one less thing that she wants him to be able to do it independently. And if she can do that, okay. So it's not necessarily always having to find a device, because there are devices out there. But if we can do something like maybe just travel size bottles versus, you know, something else, we'll try that. Yes, Sarah.
Sam and I went and saw an individual recently as well who had some very peculiar expectations. She's interested in helping people with disabilities be more independent as her life's work. And she's interested in starting a nonprofit organization to assist with this. And the problem is that nobody's ever expected anything of her. So we had to talk about a lot of things that were not foremost in her mind. So for example, if you're going to run a nonprofit, you have to be able to get funds. And she'd never worked on anything in her life that caused her to be able to know how to get funding. So our strategies included her working with the college that was the local college to be able to work with a researcher who writes grants so she can learn about that. So even though it's not assistive technology, it's strategies that allow an individual to learn the life skills that they're going to need to learn. She was complaining about not being allowed to cook, and it turned out that it was not her mother that was keeping her from cooking, but it was her fears of using the stove. And we can provide assistive technology for things like that. So, I mean, an apron, hot mitts, even though you don't consider those assistive technology, they can be used in a form that allows them to help someone be more independent. So, although we're not going to recommend a lot of technology for this individual, we were able to come up with all sorts of strategies that we're going to point out that she needs to start practicing, because her idea of being independent was, I'll move into an apartment and then mom can come and cook my meals for me.
Thank you for sharing that. My fire alarm keeps me from cooking, so I just took that battery out. Now I can cook. Just kidding. Just kidding, slightly. But anyway, so we wanted to add a few slides in. Krista, we do have a speech language pathologist on board, and she was able to come yesterday, but she wanted us to make sure that we cover communication, because a lot of the folks that we have seen, communication is a big part of it, and that's great. We want those referrals, because then we're able to work with them. But we're also seeing not just the communication, but the behaviors as well. So she wanted to let us, you guys know that yes, the majority of the referrals have been communication, and there's some of the things we're looking at is how to avoid device failure or device abandonment. Like the family that we were working with everything they had everything, and then when we go there, like, we need for them to have a way to let us know they need help. Okay, but then everything was put in a box away, right? So coming up with strategies on how to keep that out, not because it was just easier for them to like guess their gestures or whatnot. And then we're also looking at implementation and training and maintenance and all that. And I want to pass this over to you, Ben, if you want to add anything to that.
Communication is such a fundamental piece of our lives. And without the ability to communicate, how do we tell people what we want, what we like, what we dislike? It's not just a question of naming items, but it's a whole series of interactions in our lives that we need to be able to express a preference or negate something and say, no, I don't want that. Or maybe to make a choice, like I'd really rather have Thousand Islands than ranch dressing on my salad. Or I'd like to cut it up myself rather than have you spoon feed it to me, that sort of thing. Communication is also the means to things, and I feel like Sarah's point is really well taken. We want to provide communication supports, but it's to an end. We need to be thinking in terms of how the individual is going to be using communication. So we want to, that always motivates them, I think, to be to take up the tool that we provide them and run with it. So there's that slide that said that there's low tech and mid tech and high tech. We have a range of options. It's not all a device. It's not always an iPad or an iPhone. Sometimes it's just a booklet with pictures in it that I can take out in the community with me, that it can establish a context for me to be able to talk to you about what I want to say at that point. Okay? And the last thing I wanted to just mention was, and Martha kind of alluded to this, just because an individual can verbalize doesn't mean that they're easily understood. And we have a lot of individuals out there who struggle with being understood. And sometimes they need some kind of augmentative communication support that will help them repair a conversation. It's not that they're going to go around always talking with their device, but they need something that will help them in a pinch be able to say, no, that's not what I meant to say. Let me start again and let me help you understand what I'm really saying. And when a time comes when they're out on their own or something happens to their care provider who's with them and then suddenly they can't speak for them, because that happens, how do they tell an officer of the peace or someone who's in authority, hey, I'm a person with a disability, let me tell you what I just saw, you know, let me explain what's going on, so that they don't get misunderstood and wind up being treated inappropriately.
Yes. So when we're working with folks, we're looking at all that. We're looking at, you know, what behaviors they're doing and why are they doing those behaviors, and looking for ways to communicate, not just with their family, because so many times we hear the family understands them, but what happens? What happens if we've got some elopement going on? What happens if they do run away? What are those behaviors trying to tell you? Like, you know, if you can't tell someone to leave you alone, what are you going to do? Exactly. You might hit them. You might, you know, act out. What about there's too many things that's going on at one time and you just can't process what's going on? You can't say, wait a minute, stop, I need a break or anything like that. You may act out, right? So we're looking at all that when it comes to, and then we're also looking at safety, you know, being able to communicate in case of safety. What happens if the house is on fire? Or where do you know, what happens if you're with your caregiver and all of a sudden something happens to them, being able to have those safety things. And then we're also helping with the implementation. Sometimes it's just the engagement too. We worked with that one family where we went to where the individual was just watching TV all day, just all day long, was TV. You know, we're starting small with them and getting them a communication device with few verbal on there just to see how they're doing. And it's some of the verbal exchanges, I want this radio station on, or I am hungry, or but if they already know, are you doing yes and no, those are not really the things we're really going to focus on. We're going to focus on some of those other things, because if they're already able to communicate that, and people already know that, then we're not going to try to reteach them that if it's working, if that makes sense. We're also looking at things for engagement. With that family in particularly, we got a PowerLink 4, which is a really cool device where you can plug in like a blender, and then you have a switch, and you hit the switch, it'll turn on the device. So being able to bring that to their family, and so just being able to plug in a blender and then like make a milkshake with your family or your friends or whatever, your sibling, or being able to hit that switch and turn the fan off and on by yourself can make a really big change in someone's, not only for themselves but also their environment. So, yes. Oh, Sam. Thank you.
Also, you need to look at the social aspect of a person. A teenager may use a tablet instead of what I use.
Yes, very true. Would you like to explain what you're using? Just to put you on the spot? Because your device is super cool?
The I-Series by Toby.
It's very cool. So his device is pretty awesome, and I'm sure, I'm going to just put you on the spot again, that if you have any questions about it, you'd be happy to talk to them, because it's pretty cool how you use that device. Very cool and very true. Because we have worked with people who that don't want to be different from their peers. So that's very important, because that's going to lead to device abandonment if they look different, or, you know, this isn't really what I want, I don't want to carry this big bulky thing around. Whereas maybe using, like you said, an iPad, which It's very common now. A lot of people have a tablet or an iPad, so being able to use that. And sometimes it's even starting off with something small like that. It's like success breeds success. If they can see they can do that successfully, and if they need something a little bit more powerful, we can do the step up. So thank you, Sam. Very true. And then these are just some examples of some low-tech communication device. I mean, there's so many different types of things, but one of the things we're working with recently is this little communication wallet. We met with an individual last week who has some elopement behaviors and also is not only with developmental disability, but is deaf. So what happens if he gets out? So we're looking at using this as a safety strategy just in case he gets somewhere. Yes, ma'am.
I have so many memories coming back of trying all these things now. But do you do follow-up as well? Because the device abandonment, I mean, and for us to try, you know, it was so difficult to try to figure out to make it usable. And so, but if there's follow-up, then you can give some suggestions. Well, did you try this? Did you try that? Instead of, you know, you just get stuck.
Yes, that's a great question. And with our research, we have that built in with this project. But they don't even have to be part of the research if they don't want to. That's totally voluntary, but we'll still work with them. But yes, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this research is to see if that piece of assistive technology is going to help and there's been a change. So we have left devices already with some folks, and then I think it's 3 to 4 weeks later, we're going to follow up with them to make sure. And if it's not working, that's okay. We'll take that device away and we'll try something else. So that's a great question. Yes, because we definitely don't want any device abandonment for sure. So great question. The next time we're going to cover some cognitive supports and strategies. I'm going to pass this back over to you, Ben.
Okay, so this gets back to your question earlier about what we're talking about with cognitive support. We have individuals who have an intellectual disability. Many people with developmental disabilities are challenged sometimes just to have what we call executive function, to get their act together, so to speak, to remember things at the right time. And sometimes an individual that you're serving can be very independent and sufficient and successful if they just had a way to remind them when to take their meds or when to come back from a break. You know, they can do the work, it's just, and they can learn the work, but sometimes they just need a little bit of support or help in that process. So we're looking at ways in which the technology can provide supports to help them be a little bit more independent and be able to deal with issues relative to memory. And that also applies to a lot of the folks in the aging population. You know, people who are forgetful from time to time, things just kind of slip away that didn't used to. And I think when we all get busy, we're all challenged by the fact that we got so much on our plate, stuff's falling off the back. So we have to have some way to sort of scrape it and keep it going. And so we use our cell phones, we have calendars, we have reminder apps and to-do lists and things like that. This is really kind of a universal design because those are the kinds of tools, they may not be high-tech, but they're the same kinds of tools that we're using for cognitive support with these folks. And it can be in a variety of different settings. It could be in an academic setting or it can be in a workplace. Clearly in the community, just to remember I got to go pick up my tickets so I can go to the show, things like that, for leisure and recreation as well. So it has a pervasive capability in terms of helping people be more independent. And there are a lot of different levels of this. It could be something as simple as a visual schedule for a person with autism, for instance. Somebody who's not a real powerful text user. We might put a word on there, but we'll use the symbol to represent the activity so that it's more instantly recognizable and a little easier for them to use. Or we might add a component that will actually talk to the user, so when I pull up my calendar, I can touch a picture, I see the word, but it also tells me, oh, today you've got to go to the doctor. You need to leave by 11:45 or something like that. So we can have a number of different ways in which we organize things or we present things at low-tech, mid-tech, and high-tech to help individuals with memory and cognitive issues. And the example that I like to share is my own son Blake, who's 26 now, has Down syndrome, when he was in the schools and he had a job at a Walmart, the manager gave him the task of cleaning up the banana bin. So he brought out a wheelbarrow full of new bananas, and he said, all right, now I want you to take the old bananas out and put the new bananas in. Got it, Blake? And Blake is the kind who's just going to smile and say, yeah, I got it. You're smiling at me? It's cool. I got it, you know? So Blake, the manager comes back and sees Blake an hour later. He's been really busy, but there are still a lot of bananas with, you know, brown spots, and some of them that really look bad still in the pile. And Blake, what's going on? And he said, I did what you told me. And so he turned him in and said, you know, this guy's not being responsive. He didn't do what I asked him to do. So when it got down to us, I said, well, did you show him what you had in mind by good bananas? And they didn't understand. I said, well, you know, he lives in a house where we make a lot of banana bread. And he's never seen a bad banana. I mean, they just go over to the bread pile. So it could be just something as simple as setting up a series of pictures by the task that says, replace these with these, you know, and to give him a guide to follow that will allow him to be able to do it successfully. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. And there are lots of different forms that memory challenges and intellectual disability can come in, but that's what we're looking at. And a lot of the clients that we serve have that challenge.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is really informative because even to relate cognitive support and low-tech to assistive technology is something new to me. It wasn't something that we thought about. You usually think about communication, hearing, mobility, but I would kind of stop at my thought process in that manner as far as thinking about the referrals for assisted technology. So it's really helpful to get the information about the many types of, you know, what that covers, you know, what it really means. That's a lot of folks that we come in contact with. So.
Great. So you already think of some other folks you can refer? Yes, this is awesome. And a lot of this stuff is universal, you know, some of these cognitive supports, because I remember when my nieces were learning to brush their teeth, my sister found an app, and they had to keep brushing until the princess appeared. So then she found out they were brushing their teeth like 4 or 5 times a day because they wanted to use that princess app. And then when I spent the night, I had to find the princess too. So then I realized I wasn't brushing my teeth long enough either. So, but you know, there's a lot of those supports out there. Those reminders are huge. The ability to have something. There's an alarm clock called Reminder Rosie. It's probably one of my favorite devices recently because you can program in different messages, so it'll go off and say, you know, it's time to get up, it's time to eat, it's time to take your meds, and it's a natural voice, so it's not like the computer. I set ours at our office when I was gone for a week because I knew they'd miss me, and it went off every day about noon that says Martha is marvelous. So they wouldn't. Did I get a text from Carolyn? I'm like, I keep hearing your voice. And you're marvelous. So, but there's tools out there. That reminder app, you know, how many of you guys use a reminder app built into your phone? Yes, all the time, right? I mean, that's how I get my mail. I have to remind myself. It'll go off when I get home to check my mail. So there's all kinds of supports out there. Lots of stuff when it comes to cognitive. And it could be something like I love the banana story because if you think about it, if you've never seen a bad banana, I mean, how do you know when to take that one out? You know, I wish they would put stuff like that at the grocery store for everyone. Like, how do you choose an avocado, right? Or a watermelon? You got that's probably a whole different conversation, but anyway. So, any questions? Any more questions before we move on? Okay, good deal. So again, there's lots of AT when it comes for vision. It could be something like this Hawkeye golf scope that just fits in your hand. Different types of magnifiers out there. So this is more of the low tech. Now there's even apps that you could put on your phone that are for free that can be used as a magnification. So maybe you have you need help reading the menu at a restaurant, or maybe even reading the back of boxes or whatnot at a grocery store, being able to have that right there on your phone. It really is a mini computer when you think about it. Think about all the stuff. Does everyone have a smartphone in here? Anyone using a flip phone? A smartphone? Think of all the things you do a day on your smartphone. How often are you actually calling people, though? Think about that, right? I mean, you're probably texting, you're probably checking your email, you're updating your social media, maybe you're ordering, shopping, etc. Think about all that stuff that you do, and then how many times you actually call someone. Yes?
My dad is 69 years old, and he got his first smartphone, and he's a farmer. He says, man, this phone knows the weather.
Yeah. Yes, what is it about the weather?
That's really important. And, you know, he loves his smartphone because it tells him what the weather's going to be and how he can bale hay, or whether he doesn't have to bale hay and he doesn't have to run in and watch the news. And he's so funny. He says, you wouldn't believe it. He used an expletive, but stuff this phone.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. My dad's 85, and we were trying to get him a smartphone, and it took one road trip to the University of Florida because we're big Gator fans. We took him to a football game, and he went back home, and he told my mom, I want one of those phones that tells you all the football scores. And my mom was like, what did you do to your father? And because we spent the whole time, like, having, you know, we're big SEC fans. We had to get all the other scores, and so he was like, what? You can talk to your phone, and it will give you the score? So then he went home and did that. And then a couple of months ago, I went home to see Mom and Dad, and my mom needed an address. So now my dad and his smartphone are like BFFs, right? So my mom needs an address, and he's like, wait, I got this. He's laying back in his recliner, and he's like, Google, what's so-and-so's address? And it didn't pop up, and my dad looks at my mom. I guess he must have died. True story. True story. Because it didn't pop up. And then my mom would calmly remind my dad there are phone books. They actually still have a phone book. And so she went and she pulled it out of the phone box. But it was really funny that my dad, who was so anti, was just like now BFS with his phone. And he loves the weather too. Like, he told me not to go to Chicago one day. And I was like, well, that's good. Since I'm staying in Atlanta, won't make that trip up to Chicago. Oh my God, it'd be so much fun. Let's do it and videotape it. That would be so much fun. So much fun. I love it. So anyway, so there are all kinds of stuff for vision. So this is more the low tech stuff, but there's also some higher tech stuff out there. But it's really unique or very cool about this stuff is that you can actually get apps now. You can get an app put on your phone, and you can actually take a picture. Maybe I can't read this release of liability that I need to sign, but I can actually get an app now and take a picture of that and have it read out loud, which is awesome. You know, and think about not only folks for vision, but maybe someone with a learning disability. Maybe they need to have that read out loud. Maybe I don't want someone to read my mail. I want to be able to read it myself. So being able to pull that app out and have it read out loud. Or maybe because it's dark in a lot of restaurants, I just need to use that flash on my phone so actually seeing the menu is probably good. Sometimes it seems restaurants seem lately to get darker and darker. I'm not sure, but yeah. There's also lots of stuff when we talk about AT for hearing as well. There's all types of assistive listening devices, FM system, wearable device, and again, like to meet people where they are. And we were working with an older lady. Who was so funny. She came to see us. She was like 95. I think she's 95, 96. And she's so extremely cute. And she told me she was coming to see me because everyone told her that she was having problems with their hearing. But she was like, she told me she didn't have any problems with their hearing. But she came to see me anyway because I had a cute name and I sounded cute over the phone. So I was like, all right, I will work with that. So anyway, I was showing her some of these assistive listening devices. And she was, oh, yay, that's cute. And then she goes, I love all these, but I'm not going to wear any of them because they all had like, you had to wear, what are these things? Headphones, yes. And she's like, I get my hair done every week, and that would just mess my hair up. So I'm not going to use that. And I said, that's okay, because I'm going to switch out this headphones, and we're going to try earbuds instead. And then she wore it. She was like, this is great. And then she went to the varsity afterwards because I got like 5 calls afterwards. We met Miss So-and-so at the varsity, and they said to give you a call because she can hear us now. So I want one of those devices, which is really fun. And I was like, I love it. Come on over, and we'll hook you up with some hearing stuff. So you never know what you'll reach. All those planting seeds, right? I can't even make this stuff up. It's great stuff. So yeah. So there's all kinds of stuff when it comes to hearing. There's even all kinds of visual alerts. We talked about like on the phones how you can use the flash or the camera flash to set it off so it flashes when it rings. A lady yesterday said that she uses hers so she can find her phone in her purse. Which is great. So you can use that. And this has really gone down in cost too. We were looking just the other day, Asha and I were researching visual doorbells, and now you can get visual doorbells that are wireless, so you don't have to rewire your house. And then they like have all these different colors to choose from, so you can have it flashing blue, green, red, purple, whatever. Smoke and carbon monoxide detectors with visual alerts as well. Being able to get out of the house in case of emergency is very important. So there are all kinds of visual alerts out there that have really come down in price. There's also physical alerts too, that haptic feedback, that vibration, right? Sometimes you put your phone on vibrate and you can stick it in your pocket so you know when someone calls. You can even create different haptic vibrations on your phone, which is really cool. I met a gentleman a couple of years ago, and for his wife, he had the haptic vibration kind of feel like a heartbeat. I was like, oh, that is so sweet. But he had it set up that way so he made sure that when his wife called that he was able to answer it. I hope that's what he meant. But I thought that was really cool that he had that haptic feedback of a heartbeat, which is really cool. There's vibrating bed alerts, bed shakers. So you can actually put an alarm and put the bed shaker underneath the pillow so that a person will get up. Rachel and I were presenting in Three Rivers in Franklin, Georgia last week, and we had someone in our audience, and she has a 26-year-old daughter who's still living at home and had low hearing, and she's like, I want her to be able to get up in the morning. So we're like, hey, let's see what we have in the lab. And they actually had one of these bed shakers in the lab, and she took it home to try it because she's just like, she needs to be able to get up by herself, and I don't need to do it anymore. She's graduated, she has a job, but she's having some difficulties getting up in the morning. So hopefully this is one thing that they'll find that will work with her, which is really neat. So there are all kinds of physical alerts out there. Did you know, you may already know this, did you know, but they make smart shoes with haptic feedback in it? So it works with like a GPS. So if you're like running and you need to turn left or right, your left or your right foot will vibrate. You fall down. You fall down. Yeah, so there are actually smart shoes out there, smart insoles that you can. Well, just think about it. If you get lost or something and you're running, it will tell you like which way to go. Or maybe you have no vision and you're like, I know. It's going to take a miracle. I know. I get lost in Atlanta, too. Actually, I've been using the GPS now. I don't know. Do you know what we did before GPS? Because I just certainly do not remember it very much because I've seen parts of Atlanta that I will never see again, all because of my GPS. But I keep moving, and I won't complain because it will get me to point A and B without having to, like, stand still in traffic. Oh, yeah, be on the phone, write down the address, pull over, pull out the big map. I'll never forget that, pull out that. But, yeah, but I can imagine what we did for that.
One of the things I've heard parents with children with who experience ADHD, that getting up and timing is something that they struggle with.
Yeah, getting up, being on time, and yes, those are some other strategies that we work with. You know, being able to go to bed on time, you know, when mom and dad's not around to get you up, and work with several, you know, those folks are like, okay, I stay up all night and I go to bed at 4, but I have a 7 a.m. class. You know, so sometimes it's working on those strategies or trying to get things organized and in order so it kind of helps with that. So yeah, good point. All right. And we also do a lot of AT for sensory, and I'm going to bring Sarah up here because she is our OT. But before, she's going to talk about this fast, but we do a lot of stuff when it comes to behavior and sensory, and these are one of my new favorite things in our lab, are these things. It's kind of hard when I have the microphone. Has anyone seen one of these? These are actually like a floor tile, and you all are welcome to try it out. It's super cool. So you put it on the floor, and then I can stand on it, and I can watch the liquid move around. It's super cool. I was actually at a hotel in Phoenix, and they had when they had these on the floor of the elevator, missed my floor every single time because I was too busy like standing on this and moving around. So just using this as a sensory, I know you should try it out though. It's pretty cool. So if they go missing in the lab, they might be in my kitchen. But just something simple as this could help like ease my behavior or kind of keep me a little bit calm. So I'm going to pass this over to you, Sarah, to talk about some more stuff.
Well, Martha will pass this around. We have a lot of equipment that's available for folks to try out that helps with the physical support and emotional support. So for example, if you have someone who's prone to agitation, y'all might want to come and try this vest. It's about 6 pounds of weight, 8 pounds of weight in it. And it serves sort of as a comfort vest. And people can put it on, feel free to put it on, and can use it for helping calm people down. I don't know what else Yeah, big weighted blanket. They have them.
Oh, I know. I sleep better with that. And
Mm-hmm.
I would like a giant king size one for my bed so I can sleep better. But it's like a $500 investment. So.
Well, when you get on the waiver system.
I think there's ways, I think Pinterest has some examples on how to make like your own weighted blankets and stuff.
Mm-hmm. This vest is full of the weights in there are also, I think, magnetic as well.
This vest was, it was created by an OT to kind of help with that comfort, but also this vest kind of helps put you in alignment as well, and so it can be shown to help with some gait and some walking and some balance as well. And so it's really made to fit the individual.
Yeah, it comes in several sizes and different weights as well, so it can be used from children to adult. Oh, no, it actually could help. Mm. It could. What I also like to put in a point in place at this point is with a lot of the technology that we're showing you today can be checked out from the demonstration labs. So you can, and we'll be, when we go out to see your clients, then we can bring technology with us that can be left in place for them to try. And then if it works for them, then they can purchase it through their plans. There are all sorts of different acoustical things that can also be used. Noise-canceling headphones are a good way to block out extraneous stuff in the environment. So if any of you ever tried some of those noise-canceling headphones, they're really amazing. I've only tried them once, and I was in an airplane. And the gentleman next to me, he was gracious enough to let me try them, and oh my gosh, it was like, oh, I'm going to have to get some of these because I don't hear the airplane anymore, and I can actually hear people talk. So they don't block everything out, they just like mask the annoying noises. We have students, you ready to take that home? So, back problems.
You can wear that
The rest of you are going to have to fight her to try it. Well, it's not going to cure it, but it might help it. So, yeah, I really would encourage you, if you have a chance to try noise-canceling headphones. It can really, you know how some of our folks, they have the noise influence in their environment can really set them off. And by golly, these really do help.
Children who need AT?
For this project, it's going to be focused more on adults, but the principles are the same as far as children.
Yeah, even though
Well, we're going to talk about those services this afternoon that are available for children and the younger folks that aren't 21, that qualify for participation in this. This is a snug vest. It works similarly to the weighted vest, but it uses air pressure. And it's something that can be utilized by the individual because they can adjust the pressure to suit their needs by simply, like the airline inflatable vest, blowing into it and releasing the air as they need it. So it's helpful. Y'all can come up later, and there's a pink one up here too. So, I mean, we have tons and tons and tons of different devices that are all geared towards helping people be more independent. And I would like to also emphasize, and I think you picked up on it, that we are looking for a broad gamut of folks. These don't have to all be people that can't be helped in any other way. These are people that we want to help be more independent regardless of where their starting level is. And it's something that even people that you think are being very successful in functioning in their environment and being more independent might very well have some things that could happen with assistive technology that could even increase that level further, that level of independence.
Thank you, Sarah. So, and then again, AT for ADLs, there's lots of things we can talk about when it comes to ADL. We've gotten some requests. We talked about the shower already, looking at different strategies. There could be assistive technology around that area. We're looking at, being able to eat independently. Maybe we need to work with someone on different eating utensils or different tools that are available out there. So there's lots of stuff when it comes to ADLs that assistive technology or strategies we can really wrap around that. So now I want to pass this over to Sam to talk about some of the assistive technology when it comes to environment control. Do you want me to move the pad up here so you can stand on it?
Sure. So I know Martha talked a little bit earlier about environmental control and some different devices you can use to control your environment. So here's just kind of the formal definition of environmental control would be an electronic assistive technology which enables people with disabilities to independently access equipment in their environment. So that can be things in your home, being able to turn the lights on, being able to open your door, lock your door, control your television and turn on, what you want to watch. It could be in the classroom or your office as well. I know in our office we have Amazon Echoes all throughout, so I can just tell Alexa when I want to listen to music, or we even have some set up in our lab as well where people can come and see how that would look to turn on your lights. And then we have the environmental control controller, which you can think of like a remote control, but really the remote control would be either an app on your phone or your voice. So your voice is the controller. So if you don't have the ability to go and turn the lights on, you can just use your voice or use an app on your phone. So who needs environmental control? Who needs environmental control? I think we all want environmental control, right? Does anyone have an Echo or a Google Home that they use? No? No? Yes? I feel like they're becoming more just kind of mainstream in that everyone has an Echo. You can get the small one, the Echo Dot, for $50, I think, off Amazon. And it does the same thing as the big Alexa, where you can control, your environment from home for $50. So you could say, you know, we all want environmental control, but who needs environmental control? And that would be anyone that doesn't have the ability to do that without using their voice or without using an app. So you can control things like we said, like your TV, computer, phone, lights, and doors. Like with Siri now, you can say, "Hey Siri," and do just about anything on your phone just with using your voice. So technology that allows a person with disabilities to gain this type of control has been called environmental control system or unit. So sometimes you'll see it as ECS or ECU. We're gonna go back to that. So the Amazon Echo, is everyone familiar with the Echo? You've at least heard of it, seen some commercials. Has everyone seen it in action? It's always listening. Whether that's a good or bad thing, that's for you to decide. Yeah, if we could try them out later, that would be great. Maybe during lunch or something, we can play with it. So Alexa is a speech-controlled speaker. So it looks like this. This is like the full size, and this is the dot. The prices are a little bit different. The speaker on the big one is more robust, and it's gonna just be better sound quality. But the Echo Dot, you can connect to your own speaker. So if you have a nice Bose speaker that you want to connect it to, the Dot might be a better option for you. And it has, you know, kind of like when you ask Siri, you know, what's the weather, this or that, you can ask Alexa the same kind of questions in that sense. And then you can also connect things, you know, like the light bulbs and the locks that are, you do have to purchase separately. They have to be smart devices that will all connect with the Alexa as well. And it also has a lot of entertainment aspects where you can connect your Audible books, your Kindle books, where she'll read them out loud for you. You can get your music on it, where she can play music for you. And then there's also a lot of add-on kind of games. Like I think I got a notification that they added like a Jeopardy, where you have to, you know, Alexa enable Jeopardy, and you can play Jeopardy with her. So if that's something you're interested in doing, you can. And then these are actually newer. So there's the Echo Show, which is very similar. It works the same as like the regular Echo, but now this one has a video screen. So all the words pop up on the screen. When it's the weather, you know, if it's sunny out, it's gonna have a sun. If it's raining, it'll show that it's raining. So there's kind of like that video aspect to the Echo. And it is a touch screen as well. And then the Echo Look, I am not as familiar with, so if anyone wants to jump in, but I believe that the Echo Look is supposed to tell you if you match. And so you stand in front of the Echo Look, and she tells you how your style is and if you match. And I want to say it gives you style suggestions and things, but that could be really beneficial for someone that maybe needs help matching their outfits together, or wants that like affirmation that, okay, yes, I look good. I can leave the house looking like this.
I think too, also if you think about the confidence stuff, what does 32 degrees really feel like? Right? Like, should you be wearing flip-flops when it's 15 degrees outside? You know, that kind of stuff. So if you're not able to grasp the concept of what that temperature is, or maybe you're going to a place where it's all in Celsius and you want to make sure you're the right. But you know, we've worked with folks, and our director, Carolyn Phillips, has been open, so I'm not sharing anything that she wouldn't share, but I think she went to like somewhere up north, Michigan or somewhere, where she didn't really hear the temperature. So she gets off the plane and she's actually like wearing flip-flops, and they're like, no, you can't go outside the airport. You will like freeze your toes off, you know, that kind of stuff. So using some of these devices, even though they're mainstream, could really help someone with maybe a cognitive disability. The same as that Echo Show is super cool because it gives me that bimodal learning that I could see and also hear and at the same time. So knowing like what it gives the news, and it also shows a short video clip.
So maybe I need that video clip to help me really grasp and understand what that news story is saying. So looking at, even though this is more mainstream, looking at ways that this could help someone also with a disability too.
So Amazon has kind of been the leader. They were the first ones to do, this kind of home automation or this kind of speaker that, you can talk to. But obviously there is going to be competition. So Google came out with the Google Home not too long ago. It works very similarly to the Echo. I will say the Google Home is a little bit more conversational than the Echo, which is something like they improved in their device. So for example, you can say, I think it's OK Google is the keyword, but it's OK Google, who is the president? And, it'll answer, the president is Donald Trump. And then you can say, who is his wife? And she'll answer to who his wife is. Where the Echo, it wouldn't know who he is. So it does keep that dialogue kind of going where you don't have to continually refer back to your original question. So it's more conversational, which I think is nice. But other than that, it really does work the same. You can connect all of the same smart home type things to the Google Home as well. So it's kind of just more of a preference for what you want in your home. What was it?
The Chromecast.
I have no idea.
The Chromecast is, let me see if I can explain this. It's like a HDMI thing that you could put in and you could play like your YouTube, like on your smart TV device kind of thing. Victoria, Michael, I'm looking at you all in the back. Do you want to explain that a little bit better than what I did with the Chromecast? So, do y'all have a Chromecast here? Huh? Okay, so yeah, so like its ability to like throw something up like on a bigger screen, I know they can do that. Ben, who is in our lab, does a lot with the Chromecast where you could pull something up and then like throw it up on a bigger screen so you can play like your Netflix, not on your phone, but you can also play it on through your Chromecast. I have a smart TV that has Chromecast, so all I know, I can really just watch my Netflix and YouTube videos on my TV, so it's probably not the best way to explain it. What is really cool about the Google Home, and it is bringing competition to Amazon, is that a couple months ago or weeks ago, the Amazon Echo gave the ability to, now you can make phone calls or you can do text. The thing with that is the other person that you're texting or making a phone call has to have a mobile phone, has to have the Amazon Echo app, and it has to be in those contacts, right? So that's really cool, but it also is very limited, right? So yesterday we learned that Google Home now has the ability to make phone calls, but you don't have to have the app. You could have a landline. So that's a huge, if you think about it, the ability to be in your own home, and if an emergency comes up, say, okay, Google, call Bob, and then Bob can get that. So that's something that could really help someone, and they're both great devices, but just knowing the difference of those features are very important. Again, I'm going to go back to my mom. I was thinking about getting an Amazon Echo for my mom and dad just for the calling feature. What happens if my mom's in her sewing room and something happens, and so the ability to her to be able to call someone right away. But I waited to figure out how this is going to work with Google Home, because if she called anyone, I'm the only one that she knows that has an Amazon Dot, and they live in Tennessee, so it's pretty far for me to go. I would go in a heartbeat, obviously, but she might want to call someone a little bit closer. So, now I'm looking into like maybe Google Home might be the better device, because where they live in Tennessee, it's rural. A lot of the folks near her have landlines. My sister lives close by and would get there a lot faster, than I would. But anyway, so sometimes just knowing those features, even though they're a lot the same, sometimes those features could really depend on what device that you give to someone too, as well. Does that make sense? Good deal. Awesome. Thank you.
And I did want to say too, Apple is coming out with their own version of this. So I think like the competition is going to continue to drive the price down, which will be really great. And I did skip over this recreational AT because I was going to go about environmental control first, but at Tools for Life, it's our mission, and we talk about it a lot, is for people to live, learn, work, and play independently. And I think a lot of times people want to focus on the live, learn, work, and kind of forget about the recreation piece. So there are assistive technologies for recreation, and it doesn't have to be something super high tech like the Xbox, but there are a lot of options for that if someone's interested in playing the Xbox. In our gaming lab that Ben Jacobs is over, he has one of the controllers set up where you can use it one-handed. So he actually 3D printed a piece that clips onto the remote, and I'm not familiar with gaming at all, so I don't really know how it works, but it will control the other side of the controller, so you can do it easily with one hand. And it can also be, simple things like playing cards. So like down here, you can see it's just a card holder. So if someone doesn't have the ability to hold the cards in front of them, they can still participate in card games.
That's really cool. That's actually a really hard thing to teach students. I used to teach card games on Fridays in my classroom because it was math. We'd all learn running. teaching little third graders to eighth
Sprout them
graders
out.
just a fan.
Yes.
I mean, that would have been great.
They sell a handheld device for holding cards at Walmart for $3.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've seen those as well, where you actually hold them, but my siblings had those when they were little.
That's great, because that's really like,
Yeah. Yeah, and then,
we had fun math days.
There's also, this is, for example, is a fishing rod. I'm not familiar with fishing either, but I know that you just push a button on this and it'll reel the fish in for you. So just thinking, even the example that Martha used earlier, where, the parents might want the person to be able to, eat by themselves or bathe by themselves, but that person might want to be able to watch Wheel of Fortune or play Wheel of Fortune. So that's important to keep in mind too, that it's only so much to get up, go to work, come home, but also to have fun.
Thank you very much. Okay, and I know that it's almost lunchtime, so if you can hang in with me just for a little bit longer, I want to finish this up and then we'll take a break for lunch. But I just want to give you a few funding resources that are available, and then we'll start exploring our different partnerships. Kind of do like a working lunch, so get up, move around, go to the restroom, etc. And then Nikki will start off with her part. But before we break for lunch, because they're still setting it up back there, I wanted to go over a few funding resources. This is one we've already kind of talked about, Friends of Disabled Adults and Children. They are housed in the Stone Mountain area. If y'all haven't gone out and seen their facility, it's massive, it's huge, it's really kind of cool, what they're doing out there. So they are one of the largest durable medical equipment reuse programs in the United States, maybe in the world, where folks who need maybe a scooter, a power chair, a wheelchair, shower chair, etc., can get some durable medical equipment. Some things are no cost whatsoever, and some things might be just the cost of the battery. And if you think about things, even though the person may have insurance, a power chair can be the cost of a car. If you think about it, they can run up to like $50,000, $60,000 depending on the need for that person. So for some folks, even though they have insurance, they may not be able to pay the $5,000 or $6,000 to get that chair because that's what they owe on it. So this is just another alternative that may be able to assist someone that we're working with as well. Hearing aids. Hearing aids can be very expensive, not necessarily covered by insurance. So there are some things out there for funding for hearing aids. There's also the I Can Connect program. Are y'all familiar with I Can Connect? This is a program that is with the National Deafblind Equipment Distribution Program. It's a grant that someone who is deafblind can apply for. They don't necessarily have to to categorize themselves as deafblind, but if you know someone who has hearing loss and may have vision loss too, they can apply for this. I know there's for some folks we work with, they're like, no, I'm not deafblind, but I do have some vision problems and I do have some hearing problems. So just know that too. But if they meet a certain income, and if they're a Georgia resident, have phone or internet service, and certificate of need and proof of income, they could qualify for this and be able to get some equipment. I know some of the equipment they pass out are like iPads and Braille keyboards, etc. So this is a service that we have here in Georgia that could help someone receive some equipment. There's also the Georgia Telecommunication Equipment Distribution Program. This is also, you have to have eligibility to meet this, but you can get some assistive technology through this program. If you have a landline, I know a lot of landlines are going away, but there's still lots of rural parts in Georgia where you still have to have a landline. And so this is for assistive technology to help someone use the phone. It's basically really for safety reasons, but some of those devices can also help with communication out in the community, etc. So this is another funding resource out there. The Georgia Lions Lighthouse is a program for vision and hearing. We worked with one of your folks recently that you guys referred to us, and he was able to get his hearing aids through the Lions Club, which is really great because that's a really expensive piece of technology. So being able for them to get that, and then we're looking at other solutions on top of that to help him be more independent. Do what?
One of my clients got hearing aids for $187, and then family support paid for that.
That's awesome.
So she got everything for free.
There you go. That's awesome. That's great. That's huge. That's great.
We'll be able to go to work as soon as we can find supported equipment.
Ah, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So the Georgia Lions Lighthouse is a great program. So again, if you're working with someone who may need glasses or hearing aids, this might be a great resource for them as well. And then within Tools for Life, we also have a funding specialist, Danny Housley. He's not here with us this week, but he is over our, he does a lot of our AT acquisition and can really work with someone, maybe finding a grant and help them like navigate through some of those funding resources. And so we do have a program called Credit Able. It is a loan, but it's different than a traditional bank loan, but it's just for assistive technology, home mods, or vehicle mods. And so it's looked at and viewed at differently. We also don't want to put anyone in debt, so we really work with the person to make sure this is the right solution for them. And so there is an application they fill out. They have to go through approval process, but if they can prove that they can make those payments, then this may be a fit. And also sometimes it's toggling some resources. Maybe I can get a grant for this amount and maybe get this amount covered, and maybe I just need like $200 to help out with this. This might be it. We've also worked with individuals. He's also worked with individuals where they have bought a computer on their credit card. So now they have that 20% interest rate, and the amount they're paying off is going to take way more than that. So he's been able to help folks refinance and put it through the Credit Able at a much lower interest rate, like 5 or 6, 7%, depending on the loan or whatever. So keep that in mind as well. And then again, we do have the online dollars and cents funding guide, which is right on our Tools for Life website as another resource too, that we try to keep updated all the time as well.